Hi.
Hello and welcome to another live demonstration. If you're in the chat, you can ask questions, or even if you just say hi, and Gary will try and answer as many as he can. If not, he will shout out and I will try and help you. So today I want to use velour pastel paper and the wonderful hand-rolled Unison pastels. I don't often use the velour paper, so this is something I haven't used for a while, and I have meant to do a demonstration using the Unison pastels, just never got round to it. So I made a concerted effort to drag these from the back of the cupboard and use them because they are beautiful pastels. They're made using the finest pigments, and it's mainly pigment and a little bit of binder. You can see the lovely shape of them. They're all slightly different. This is because they're hand rolled. So a dollop of pigment, a little bit of binder and water in a ball onto the thing and rolled out like that. And that's how these pastels are made. And they're wonderfully soft. So velour paper. Now this is an interesting pastel surface. Pastel surfaces have moved on from traditional papers. The grip is something that pastelists are looking for because it means there's not a lot of dust. But when it comes to using grip, sometimes it means that you can't blend and soften as much as possible. And this surface, I'm not sure I like the feel overly because it's a bit like velvet, but it's a fabric surface glued to a paper surface, and it's really interesting how it grips the pastel. So it creates a really soft line. Let's put a bit of orange on. Look at that, it just creates that fuzzy softness which is really nice for backgrounds. And I'll show you how you can get quite clean lines. But look how intense the colour goes on straight away. What it doesn't do is it doesn't blend as easy. I do know you can push it into the surface in order to get those layers to grip. And when you put additional layers on, over, try the lighter one, it will start to blend. So once you've got your layers on, you can soften and blend that way. Sometimes pastel pencils don't always work on the surface. They get a bit scratchy. You can see there with this one. They do tend to start to work on top of a pastel layer, but you do need to check which pastel pencils work. So that one doesn't. These are a bit too hard. May work for what you're looking for. Yeah, and so these are all the Derwent pastels. Those two colours are a bit hard. The black's working really nicely. And I do use a pastel pencil for initial drawings. So this is a Faber one, I think, yes. And it just gives me a nice light outline. If I don't push into the surface, because it's very easy, don't know if you can see there, to dent the surface and scratch the surface. So you can see, let's pop pastel over. They do show up when you put the pastel over it. Now this is a scrubby piece of offcut. You can see it's got a bit dented at the side. I tend to cut strips off when you've done a painting, and then you've got little strips to practice with and you're not wasting paper. You can see this was one I cut off, a final piece. Velour paper, it grips really well. You can see how little is actually coming off on my fingers, on my hands. What it doesn't do, it doesn't take water very well, which is why I've just made sure I've covered Now, people do use water with pastels, so in a wash underneath or alcohol. This paper doesn't really take water. Now, maybe you don't want to use water, but if you're using a fixative, you need to be careful. It doesn't need a fixative, and to be honest, I don't use fixatives because I don't like the way it alters the surface. But sometimes people use a fixative in layers and then finish the final painting without a fixative. You do have to be careful because you're adding a wet medium to this surface, and you can see there how easy the surface is to disturb once it's wet. Let it dry and it should be okay, but it is also easy to blemish. So I've had an artist say even if they try and blow the dust off and any spittle that goes on it, it will stain the paper. So just practice, try, make sure you do it and you're happy with the results before you try it on a final piece. What else? Let's try and see how well it takes to come off. So it is a delicate surface. You can see how easy it is to dent. So you do have to be careful. So lifting off, it's not advisable to use an eraser to rub the surface because you're going to interfere with the flock. But you can lift, and I have to do this quite often because I'm quite a messy pastelist and get fingerprints all over. So if you just gently lift, let's try a bit. I haven't pushed into the surface. Let's try there. I've kind of rubbed some of this into the surface, which is why it's not lifting as easy. But it is lifting. See there? I can lift off and alter. Love a kneadable eraser because it's all self-cleaning. You just keep pulling and then you've got a clean eraser. So there's some of the velour practices, but you can feel the wetness going through onto the surface. You can see it bubbling there. So do be considered if you're spraying because you're adding a wet medium to this surface. But let's have a play with a painting of a Scarlet Macaw. Now, I'm going to use plenty of reds. And this is why I've got these little strips, because I just want to use the right red. That's going to be the darkest one. Because until I've tried it on this colour surface, I'm not sure which one is going to work. So this is, I think this is actually orange, but on this I think it works for that red. So let me just start here. Look how quickly it just grabs the colour. It's a great thing about doing birds with feathers. You just need to dab it on and it creates that feather-like appearance on its own. There's plenty of ways I can layer up, so just, I like to put colour down. And I don't know if you can see, but I can see little clouds of dust coming off. Because these are super soft pastels. Just going around the outside. I'm applying this very lightly. And I know if I've got areas I don't like, I can go back over. Great thing about pastel is the ability to layer. just looking at the direction of the feathers, so they kind of go up and over, and then over the head this way. Use some of this lighter colour. I am really very lightly putting this on. What colour is this? That's A14, so that's additional 14. That's a little lighter. Now, the colours from the photograph are going to be a little bit different because it's just the way it's caught the light. So I don't need to be using the side there to put colour on.
Anita.
Yes.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
About the parrot. Is it the one from Woodside? Yes. Yeah. I reckon because he's there as you go in, isn't he?
He's right there as you go in.
Poppy? Is it called Poppy?
I'm not sure what he or she was called.
It talks as well.
It does. It greets you as you go in. And Woodside is not far from either of us, is it?
No.
It's just down the road. A very small little wildlife park, but they have wolves, which is really interesting to see. Right, so now on to a bit of yellow to add a bit of lighter areas. And the meerkats you can feed, can't you?
Yes, get some mealworms and feed the meerkats.
And you go into the inside heated area, and there's sloth.
Tropical kind of
Yeah.
area, isn't there? Yeah.
And the sloth is just crawling around in the ceiling. And the bat, I don't like the bat area because it's just black, enclosed area. It's a bit, don't mind bats, I just don't like a dark enclosed area. But yes, it is, it's a lovely place to visit, and not far.
Google tells me it is Poppy.
Poppy, hello Poppy. But yes, it's a nice way to be, as soon as you walk in, she says hello to you. And she's right outside, literally as you come in, so she greets everyone and sees what's going on. Just adding some light. So what I'm also going to do is pick up the differences in the feathers that I'm seeing. So on the head, they're much lighter. Just use the edge to pick up the much more spiky feather. And as it goes round into the head, it gets a much bigger, slightly different shaped. But look at that light already, isn't that coming through? So there's about 3-4 layers of colour. It's quite light over here and I quite like that. So I like these different feathers here, and as they come down here. Isn't it really nice when you've got a medium like this that you can just create a shape that's perfect? So this rounded feather, you can just do that without much effort at all. Okay. Right, let's go back. Let me start with some darker. I know what I need to do as well. I need to bring this down into the face. So the feathers go around the face, and this is skin with a few red feathers on it. But I just need to darken because it goes round, following that. roundness and shape. And around the eye, because the eye does go back a little bit, you just need to add some dark around here. And I've noticed that the feathers go back in that kind of shape away from the face, just here. And they are a little lighter. Now if this is a bit too dark, which it does seem a little bit, I can go back over it. What it's doing is it's helping me identify the darker areas, so under here, under the beak, on the beak, a bit darker there, but go back in with the red. Quite like this. Difficulty with when you put the darks on it, you can go too dark. What red have I got? So using the little swatch I have, I can now see which red. Let's get that shape. Beautiful colours. Using the side, because that will really quickly put on. And you notice the difference. It's not as harsh if I gently just drag the pastel over the surface, so it can be used for a background. Right, let's fill in. What I'm going to just remind myself is I want to just pick up a little bit of the blue and green, because the Scarlet Macaw has beautiful blues and greens and yellows on their wings, and you're just catching the top of the wing there. Can keep working on this. I don't like that yellow as much. I think it's a bit bright, but I can take that down. So let me take that back a little bit. Use that red. Gently dab it on. It's better. Not quite as solid, because these feathers are quite delicate. I just want to see how fine I can go, because I'm not going to use a pastel pencil. I could use a pastel pencil for very fine detail, but I'm going to see how much I can get from just using the Unison pastels. Because sometimes I find I get a little bit too obsessed. If I've got a really fine detailed pencil, I'll then get really obsessed with detail, and that's not what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is a little bit of texture. Okay, I'll leave that for now because I can always go back into it. So, the beak. Now I don't want to put white down straight away. we put the black outline, then I can see. Now this is going to be tough, is getting the point of the beak. It comes up there. Just grips the pastel instantly. You get a really strong lay down of colour. Just dot that there. Helps me decide. Okay. This is just me thinking about, I don't want it all to be just a flat grey. I'm going to put more colour in, but I want to think about where I'm putting that colour in. Okay, so I'm going to put a bit of Prussian blue. And a bit of dark purple. I think it's much more interesting to add and create your own grey using other colours. Right, this is actually quite dark in here. This is the inner mouth. So let me go in with the black. Not all over, but this is, for me, the darkest area. Right. There's some colour there, there's bits of pink I can see. So white doesn't necessarily need to be white. So many light colours that you can suggest for the white. It comes down here. But actually there's a bit of colour that comes up here. Let me use this pink. Okay. I might use this as okay. Pink there, bit of this. What colour is this? BE. Brown Earth 7. So the higher the number, this is a 7, the more white it has in it, which makes it a tint. The lower the number means it's got black in it, so that's how pastels are made. They have a pure colour. It's usually a middling number. On this, I'm not sure how this works, but you'll have a range like picking up a colour blue grey, blue green, BG, or blue violet. Let's start with blue violet. So blue violet will have a number of colours in that range, and it's created by having a pure colour and then adding either white or black, and that changes the colour. So you get shades if you add black and tones if you add white, and that's how pastels are made. That is adding white or black. From the pure colour, which can be made from a couple of pigments, but one colour, blacks, whites, and that's how you get that whole range of pastels. Pastels. Let's dark a bit of pink. There's that shape there. And it can look at the scruffy stage. Just putting colour on. And turning the pastel round to catch an edge. So this colour is a little bit harder than the others. And each pastel will feel a little different. You can feel some are slightly harder, even though this is a really soft range. This one is just that little bit harder. Now with pastels, because you can mix, but it's a lot more difficult to mix colours, is why you have such a vast range of colours. I think I need a little bit of blue. Look at all those beautiful colours. Now I can softly blend. By just gently adding colour. Look at all those beautiful colours. In what looks like quite a white beak, you actually can get some beautiful colours. I love colour, so I will probably add a little bit more colour than is possibly there, but white is just so very flat, when actually it's not a flat colour, it's full of so many different shades. White for me is going to be my very last resort. I need a bit of pink down here. Right, where's this light? This is actually grey 27, so this is the initial colour with lots of white in it, which is why it's such a light colour, but it's not as harsh as the white. Like I say, I'm leaving that till the very last. See specks of pink as well. Right, let's add around. So this is the skin. And it has a few feathers, but it's actually quite wrinkled just here, in order to allow the bird to open its mouth. And Scarlet Macaw eats anything from fruits, nuts. The national bird of Honduras. Well, this is the difficult bit because I'm determined not to use pastel pencil. Let's try. So you can see these still have a sharp edge. If I can just get that shape on. Right, so actually the light goes up and above where I've been a bit over keen here. Doesn't matter, I can fix that. So always constantly altering and adjusting your drawing. So I did initially quickly sketch it out, but it doesn't mean that there aren't areas which I can move and adapt and alter. Needs a bit. It's coming along. Right, let's put this detail. So these are just tiny feathers which they have on their face. But the rest of it is white skin. So put the grey, the very lightest grey on first, which means I can then just dab the, I should reshape that because it needs a bit more shaping. Build that up a little bit. Put some, it goes right across. Okay. Another one that comes down here. Does a few wiggles. It's a bit more broken, that line. Maybe it's a little bit too strong, but I can go back into it. I want some of this purpley grey around the face here. They're a nice, just need to lighten, which is that colour, and bring this skin back in. So I'd lost that, but it goes over here. You can see how you can create light over darks. I'm going to just highlight these details and wrinkles in the skin. Still not used that white yet. It really is one of the nice things. And the eye in this case is actually quite light because of the camera, but they have a light orangey blue eye. And you can see how I can alter, go back in, reshape where necessary. See if I can bring that. Right, I think I can try and use some white. Just, you can see now why I didn't use this first. It is quite strong. Skim across, create that curve, but not cover beautiful colours underneath. So this is white here. Look how bright that is. And again, this is why I didn't use it. make sure the beak is attached to the face, and let's just add some of this white in here. Take that round into the mouth and catch these edges. Push quite hard, that'll give me some really nice touches of light. Back in with the shape. Actually, I might do a bit purple. Again, I haven't used the black. Oops. So that's because I dropped the pastel on, but using my kneadable eraser, I can go back in. A little bit of blue, I think. It's quite light there. Just speckles and textures. Right, around the face is a lot lighter, so just pushing it in. Pick up. Yeah, that's better. So you can see how the white has suddenly made that stand out a little bit. And I can go in with a little bit of cleaning up detail. So I want to add this that goes round here. Over here. Got a sharp ridge there. Don't like calling them wrinkles, I think it's a little unfair, but some of the lines. Right, I do have a black. There you go. Right, see if I can get that light halo around the eye. Black. And again, you can see why I haven't gone in with the black, because it is quite harsh. Just going to use it to push areas back gently. Put that on here, maybe a little bit here. Right. And final look, I think I'm going to add a little bit more light. And work and finalise this area. Take the dark in a little bit. That's purple be better. Ah, that's better. Don't want to put too much on, but it does need to push the colours. Under here. Let's pick up some light. Might be a bit too bright under here, but again, these are a bit too bright. Let's take you back. And add very light. These are the nice little touches where you can make or break, to be honest. But with pastel, it's so forgiving. Catch the just tap of white. This isn't strong enough for me yet, so it was a bit too flat. I know what I could add. I'm so very close to finishing, so I'm just going to add a bit of more colour in here. And a bit of grey. That was a bit too strong, so let's go back in with a lighter colour. That's better. Quite like the blue actually I've got. Right, final little bit of darks and I'm done. blue, the green, which is part of this red. Right, I think I can leave it. I've got the main details in, got the eye, beak, face, just hiring the head because I don't think it's quite high enough. It's better. So literally just a few millimetres makes all the difference. I think I'm finished there, but I hope you can see how wonderful these Unison pastels are, especially on this velour paper, how they grip, how they create really strong, intense colour straight away. And I hope you enjoyed that, and join me again soon for another live demonstration next week.